As the only African American here, I cannot go lower than A minus, so I'll stick with A minus.
Can't go lower than. All right,
Well,
Mike.
well, as the only person darker than you here.
Oh shit!
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Heroes Peak podcast. I am your host, Chris, and we're here to talk about entertainment, culture, and whatever the hell we feel like. With me today, three of my favorite people in the world. Not the favorite people, but three of them. We're going to start with Brooksy. How you doing, Brooksy? I see your Raiders aren't doing so hot.
Oof.
You know,
Go
it's
Giants.
never a good week. Wow. You're in Canada. It's never a good week to be a Raiders fan.
It's never a good week.
But this week is particularly not great to be a Raiders fan.
No.
And
It's been what, 3 arrests or something like that? No.
something like that. I don't know if what's his name got arrested. The dude that was just on Instagram threatening to kill people with guns.
Okay.
I don't know if he got arrested yet. No.
Yeah, I don't know if he got arrested, but he did get dropped by the Raiders.
You'll have to be more specific. Isn't it not like 25% in the NFL?
25% of the Raiders, apparently.
That's right. Speaking of NFL and our favorite Giants fan here, well, one of our favorite Giants fans here, James. Do you guys want to send
Hold on, that was my hello and sign language to our ASL subscribers.
I want you as a Giants fan to tell the Raiders fan what OBJ can do for them since he is now on waiver wires.
Nothing. We don't want him. Let him go. He's too much drama.
No,
Move
but
on.
the Raiders, I want him. I actually think he would be great for the Raiders. I think that is a perfect.
He's a head case. No.
Yeah, but the level.
Have you seen the Raiders roster lately?
I was gonna say the level of head case for Raiders is
you can go even further down right now, much further down.
And to complete our trifecta, up in Canada, rooting for whatever hockey team, right? It's Mike.
Just not the Toronto Maple Leafs, because I won't be alive when they win the next cup. So,
Jesus.
No, there's a Canadian Football League, right?
Yeah, there is.
And you got the Raptors. They won a championship 2 years ago.
We got the Jays, so I'm not worried.
Yeah, but that's not football.
And the Blue Jays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and you got Drake. You got Drake.
And Justin Bieber.
Drake.
And Justin Bieber.
We don't claim Justin Bieber anymore.
Why not?
Wait. Someone catch me up. I believe there was a World Series just happened, right? I completely missed it.
Atlanta won. Hoorah, hoorah. ATL.
Nobody really cares about baseball right now, right?
Baseball used to be America's pastime.
People do.
We care when the Yankees were winning. We don't care anymore.
All right. So today we've got 2 topics for you. We are going to talk The Harder They Fall from Netflix, and we are going to talk Eternals, the big, giant blockbuster out here to tell Dune to sit its ass down. Sorry, Dune. Really put you in your place. All right.
Do we know how much Eternals has made so far?
Yes, we do, and we'll do that when we get to it.
Spoiler alert: a lot.
First of all, we are going to start with The Harder They Fall. Can I see hands of who watched The Harder They Fall on Netflix? Oh, Mike
you didn't do your homework?
Mike watched it.
Of course, I watched it. I'm not raising my hand like I'm a toddler.
Toddlers don't raise their hand, Mike.
And it's not like there's 50 of us.
He made it a whole family event when he watched it.
I just want to make sure here. Sometimes we don't always get the full cast here. All right.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
So, The Harder They Fall is a Netflix original movie, directed by James Samuel, and written by James.
Hold on, right before you get off the topic of the director. You know he's a younger brother of Seal, the artist Seal.
Really?
Yes.
No, I didn't know that.
I looked him up after the movie because I was like, what the hell this guy produced? Did a lot of music videos. And then I saw at like last line, also younger brother of the artist known Seal. He gave his government name, his Nigerian, British name, and then Seal.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, just so everybody knows, as we start this, I didn't do any preparation. So everything I am reading off the cuff. So as I screw it up, you can laugh and just know that I did not prepare at all today. All right. So
I'm just waiting for you to pronounce names when we get to the Eternals. So
it's gonna be tough. Be he couldn't even pronounce the director's name correctly. So
I said Jamel. I was like, Jamel? What? No, that's not.
No,
James.
It's not.
It's not an L. That's an S. All right. So James Samuel, also written by James Samuel and Boaz Yakin. This is actually it's a modern Western, which I was obviously I haven't seen a modern Western in quite a while, so it was a pretty good surprise. All right. So anyway,
basically every Clint Eastwood movie that's been out is a modern Western.
I'm trying to think of the last one I saw. I'm thinking like the only one that pops in my mind is 3:10 to Yuma with Christian Bale, but I know I've seen ones up beyond that.
The Mandalorian is the last Western you saw, but that's about it.
No, well, official Western on Earth.
Right. So, all right. So, a storyline here: when outlaw Nate Love discovers that his enemy Rufus Buck is being released from prison, he rounds up his gang to track Rufus down and seek revenge. That's pretty basic. We're gonna go with that. And this movie stars a huge, very popular cast, which everybody will know all the names as we talk about Jonathan Majors, Zazie Beetz, Ed Geggy, DeWanda Wise. Let's see here. Wait, Regina King, Lakeith Stanfield, and why am I missing
Idris Elba?
Let's not forget fine ass.
It's literally not in the top cast on IMDb. That's so weird. How is Idris Elba not the number one name on IMDb?
Also, Dion Cole from Blackish.
Yeah, this is just a who's who, guys, of acting faces.
Oh yeah, we even had Damon Wayans Jr. in there.
Yes, Damon Wayans Jr. in the beginning.
Was Damon? I was like, is that Damon Wayans?
Yeah, I didn't recognize him at first.
Come on, he's got his dad's facial features, just lighter skin.
He looks just like his dad. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
All right. Wow, so I want you each to just go ahead and give me your overall thoughts on the movie. What excited you? Was this like, I want more of this? Do you want just this crew to do a whole nother movie with just a different theme? Like, what do you want?
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
You've heard of this. You've seen this, right? You know what that is.
It is unavoidable. It is your destiny.
Is this not why you are here?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Knock that shit off.
Brooksy, what do you want with this movie?
Yes, I would like to see a part 2, which at the very, very end, I don't know if we can already do spoilers. Spoiler, at the very end, when you see Regina King's character, it feels like there's going to be another one. And I am really excited about this because I was like super into the movie. I thought it was great. I love the fact that it was a Western with Black people and not like, I don't even know if this makes sense. Not like a Black Western, but I just like to see the fact that you could take a genre of a movie that normally doesn't really include Black people and insert it and it still be like super effective and interesting and like, you know, hit all of the major parts that the Western genre hits, if that makes sense.
One good thing that we should note, and they noted that at the beginning of the movie, is a lot of the characters being played are actually based on real life people.
Oh, you stole my thunder right there. I was waiting for that. But go ahead. It's all good. Right, it's all good.
I'll let you go for it, James. I'll let you pick it up from there.
So yes, that was one of the key points of this movie. That first of all, shout out to the man Sean Corey Carter, the American Nobel poet laureate known as Jay-Z, for helping executive produce this show. And yes, it is based on actual real life characters who are black or black, Mexican, and Native American characters that existed during the Wild Wild West. And they were so popular that unfortunately, because of how, the American culture, yes, let's just say that they became fictionalized as white cowboys. They then had their own mythology and story. So it took a long time before the truth came out, and if these characters were nerfed as actually being African American and not white Caucasian Americans. So just about every character that you saw on this, and I did my little research on it, were for the most part Black Americans who were freed slaves who ventured out to the West to make their own mark. Because at the time, again, the Wild West, there was no holds barred with the government, whether it's slavery or not slavery, before the Civil War. So shout outs to that. I said shout outs to Jay-Z and co-executive producer Netflix for putting out the show. Shout out to the ensemble cast. You named some of the bigger names, but the actress that played Coffee, who was like, she portrayed herself as a male cowboy who actually was a female. Um, I'm gonna trust you're pronouncing her right. I don't have the name in front of me. I'm gonna trust you on that. She was by far one of the best. Her and Lakeith Stanfield were the two best characters. And again, and I hope this is a shout out to Hollywood. There are superb African American or British African American actors and actresses that can give you a westernized genre type show or a movie. They can carry it and make it believable, and like we can get into the plot when I'm sure Mike is gonna freaking rip apart the plot. We can get to the plot a little bit later. But as far as the acting and these characters and the emotions and everything they carry, Regina King being still the queen, Grand Rising, I salute her. She's phenomenal. It's superb, and I'm glad that they took these characters that were like fictionalized to be white Americans who are actually Black Americans, and to put them on stage, and you got to see them do the same things that I grew up watching the Sergio Leone movies, one of my favorites all time. Good, Bad, and Ugly, Fistful of Dollars, For a Dollar More, all that stuff was my favorite growing up. And I kind of saw the plot going that direction, except for a little twist at the end, which I didn't, that was nice. So it was nice seeing it with some black faces, and I loved it. That's my take on that, Chris.
Blackface.
Well, not blackface. Thank you for correcting me.
No.
Thank you.
Because there was a time in America where that would have happened.
That would have passed. Yeah, good point.
This is not that, just so everybody knows. All right, Mike, your turn.
All right, where do I begin? Actually, I really enjoyed this movie. I do have a couple of issues, which we'll get into later. But speaking of the cast, yeah, James is right. Some of these side characters, like Bill Pickett, and so you had Jonathan Major's character. He had his crew, and some of the crew I really liked, almost better than his character.
Oh, Delroy Lindo. We
right,
didn't
I was
mention
going to say Delroy Lindo was in this movie.
Who continues to get like
he gets better with every role. I think, like he just gets better with age, and he was fantastic in this one.
Sorry,
he was snubbed for an Oscar with the Five Bloods. If I remember last year.
Right.
C.J. Seiler, him playing the he was the quick draw, right?
R.J. Seiler,
yes, the young kid, yeah.
I really liked his character, yeah. And even on the bad guy side, some of the side characters there, like Lakeith's character was great, squaring up against at the end, but.
That hurt. That hurt me a lot.
I know.
That hurt all of us. That hurt all of us.
He was a good bad guy in that movie. So
he was.
Yeah. But that's what I have for the cast. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a good ensemble. I would love to see this crew get together for another movie for sure.
Yeah, I love the genre usage, and so let's get into the movie itself. So some of the things that stood out for me, and this is where I think the movie wasn't a perfect film. Was there was some points where I'm like, oh, this movie's gonna go big, this is gonna go kind of wild, and then it kind of didn't hold that through the whole thing. So let's call specifically out the White Town.
I liked the White Town.
I did. I loved
That
it.
was fantastic. Yeah.
I thought it was like when they said, "Well, you got to go to that's the White Town," and I was like the visual of it was just wild and perfect for what it was. And I'm like, I kind of wish there was more things that were just this stark, in your face visual. That
I get that.
and actually one other thing that was like that, but I thought was a little bit weird, was the club. When Zazie beats his when Zazie beats his character goes into the club in Redwood.
Right.
And
it's like Rufus's Club or whatever.
It's like black leather padding, and it was very modern. It's got the girl dancing in the like body paint.
Yeah,
like it was
felt
very
like
very
1950s-ish or 60s.
Yeah, it was really bold and modern. Yeah. But I also thought, I was like, wow, that's like pops a lot. And I don't think everything like held up to that level. Like those were like a level 11 to everything else being like a 8. You know what I mean?
Right.
My only critique about when they went to the White Town was they took you away from the main plot, because you knew at that point they were supposed to return the money they had stolen back to Idris Elba's character, and it was like, the stakes. They're gonna make it through. They're gonna rob. They're gonna get the money. So it was to me just more like a moment of like levity, to laugh, to see the whites now get treated differently. It didn't bring any more strength to the movie. I just felt like it was just like.
I disagree with you. I thought there was some character development there with what's her name? That
Zazie Beetz? No, not Zazie Beetz.
No.
Coffee.
Yeah, that they showed that she was a female, and I don't know.
That was hilarious.
Because that was a big reveal. Before they did that, was the big reveal, was to show you on camera she was actually a female. That's a good point. I forgot about that part.
But also it gave her character time to do, like, just as an actress, it gave her a scene that was all her. You know?
Although it pales in comparison to her later on when she takes out, Lakeith's character. That to me was the pinnacle of the movie.
Spoiler alert.
We're here already.
We're spoiling this movie, so
we're there
right now. Too late.
Is there anything else that jumped out to you guys that you wanted to talk about?
I thought it was like really violent, but in a good way. I don't know if that makes sense. I felt like when they did the shooting scenes and the fighting scenes, they really went there. Like they weren't scared to show the violence of it.
Yeah, it reminded me. It was kind of Tarantino-esque.
I was gonna say that's normal now for any of these genres now, that are the glorified Western, whether it's actually military movies too. Same thing. You watch any Saving Private Ryan on, it's gonna be hardcore to watch violence wise. But Chris, my only issue, and being negative Nelson here, is the soundtrack. I didn't think the soundtrack really fit the motif of this movie. First of all, I know why you love it, but let me tell you why I didn't think it fit. It was a lot more West Indian and Caribbean background music that did not fit with the historical epic we're watching, where it's Black Buffalo Soldier, because they were not Caribbean descent at the time. They were American. They were incorrect. Let me give you a little more knowledge. Can I give you? May I use the cheat code? May I pull out my cheat code? So a lot of the cowboys came from southern plantations, not from Louisiana, not from Florida. They were from the Carolinas, Georgia, and Virginia, who migrated west through Tennessee, Arkansas, and became freedmen and found their own way. The Caribbean blacks at the time, if they're not in Caribbean, were actually going through the Northeast, New York, building their own societies, or in Canada. The Caribbean Black Americans did not exist in the American culture up until the late early 1900s, let's say early 1900s when Harlem started.
That's
Yes,
not true at all.
the big migration
Caribbean
of
Black
Caribbean
Americans
blacks.
didn't exist until
No,
Harlem.
no, I'm saying
Maybe
like
Louisiana.
the culture of Caribbean blacks in as far as part of the American
Louisiana would
blacks.
disagree with you, my friend.
No. I'm telling you, I've studied this. So the music would have been more. It would have been more impact if they gave him like soul music, or music that predated jazz, which didn't evolve to another 30, 40 years according to the time span of this movie. Not give me Bob Marley renditions, because there was a lot of like Bob Marley and Jamaican Caribbean music that did not exist at the timeline, and it didn't exist for at least another 100 years, and was nowhere near the American South. It wasn't.
Can I jump in real quick?
Right.
But
sure.
I just say,
sorry.
So,
I
if I want to compare this to Django, I'm going to say the soundtrack to Django was more on point to the movie. And
Thank you. I didn't even think about that.
And I'm going to say shame on Jay-Z for not stepping up and being better with the soundtrack for this movie.
Yeah, he dropped the ball.
The soundtrack was good.
I totally disagree.
But I'm with James on that. Some of it didn't match.
You like it because you like the music. It doesn't mean it fits the freaking motif. You just like the music. Yeah, I like the music too.
Creative liberty.
All right. So here's a question I had: is I noticed, and maybe this might be absolutely purposeful. There was very little
Wendy's.
There was very little.
I'm gonna have to blur your whole screen, James.
There was very little Native American or Hispanic.
Yeah.
There was one Hispanic guy who got killed because he was part of the game from the beginning, which was cool. I thought the scene was cool, whatever. But I just noticed throughout the rest of the movie, like even background characters, it was completely void of that. Now, is that? I'm assuming that's purposeful. This isn't.
That was purposeful because Lakeith's character that he was portraying was actually Mexican, Native American, and Black. His true character, the backstory.
Well, if we really want to be historically accurate too, we should have had a ton of Chinese people on that section of the U.S. So,
near the railroad's part, but yeah, you're right.
So
yeah,
but it's a fiction movie, right? So we give it some.
It is.
Yeah.
I was just asking if anyone else noticed that it was just lacking that other parts.
And I didn't like
right.
We noticed it. We all noticed it.
Okay. So now, for me, the next thing to talk about is style. Like everything about this felt like the characters. Stylized is kind of the word, but it was more than that. There was an attitude to this movie that was above and beyond just being a Western. What did you guys think about the feel of this movie?
For a lot of the main characters, they were almost too cool for school. Like that kind of attitude.
Like that.
They kind of made them like mythic figures. Like Idris Elba's character, even like in fact the opening scene of the movie where the young version of Jonathan Majors' character, and by the way, the actor that plays his dad, also well-known black actor.
Yeah.
Yes, and the mom. He comes in with the gold pistols. You don't even see his face. They're really like, making these guys mythic legends before you get to see who they are. And that's a little bit Tarantino-esque. I hate to say because I can't think of anyone else in Hollywood that does that as good. But I think it served the purpose of the movie. It made you like invest in, wow, these guys are better than average. Quick draw, like fastest gun in the West.
The last thing for me, I'll talk about. I'll give you guys a shout out. Is I loved the dichotomy of Idris Elba and Jonathan Majors. I think those two have very different energies, but it worked going against each other. Like Jonathan Majors had this smile. Like he just like a great disarming grin. Like he looks like he's mad, but then he like grins at him and Zazie Beetz were going at it that way. But then Idris Elba had this like deep, cool, like just look at a guy and makes him piss his pants kind of a thing.
Yeah, he did a great job playing this like big, bad, notorious character for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's too bad they kill Heimdall in the MCU, right? I would like to see Heimdall up against Kang in the future there.
Yeah.
Always bring things back
love
to
Heimdall.
I know, like let's let it go. That was a terrible character for Idris Elba. Let's
No,
be
it
honest.
wasn't,
No, that
man.
was great. I
That was
loved Heimdall.
Idris did a great job as Heimdall, man.
After Thor Ragnarok, he was right to be killed. Move
Nah,
on.
man.
Idris Elba, Idris Elba,
Okay.
go back to
Harder they fall.
Luther. Go
Harder they
back to
fall.
other movies.
Come back. Come back.
Yes. Go back to Luther on
Oh, don't get me
BBC.
started on the Star Wars connections. So,
All right.
did you realize back in the...
No.
Okay,
No, he was never in
Brooksy,
Star Wars.
last give me some note about the movie that you want to shout out before we give our grades.
One of the things that I wanted to point out, because we have said multiple times that it was Quentin Tarantino-esque, right? Is that I think one of the things this movie did a really great job of, like I said, is being a Western with Black people in it and not like dropping the N-word every 4 seconds. Like every movie Quentin Tarantino has ever made has an overuse of the N-word, which really fucking annoys me.
Yeah, I'm
Because
with you there. Yeah, I
he's
actually
writing
agree
it
on that.
and he's a white dude. And it just like, but like when Samuel L. plays his characters, it works for him. You know what I mean? So I kind of get it. But like, I wanted to shout that out in this film because it didn't have that word, but it still like hit.
All
Yeah,
right, Mike.
the only thing I want to add to it as an editor, this movie could have been half hour shorter.
Sounds like Mike.
There's stuff I would have cut out of there for sure. But other than that, I thought I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'd love to see more. So
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna grade. I'll go first. I'm gonna say A minus.
Oof.
All right, Brooksy.
Yeah, I like that grade. I'm gonna do A minus.
James.
As the only African American here, I cannot go lower than A minus, so I'll stick with A minus.
Can't go lower than. All right,
well,
Mike.
well, as the only person darker than you here.
Oh shit!
I'm gonna give this a B minus.
Can you edit that part out?
No, keep that part in, definitely.
Yo, Keith is sorely missed for this podcast.
Yep.
What was Keith's grade?
He actually didn't
I didn't
give
ask
one.
him that one. He didn't give one for this one.
He gave us an Eternals grade. We'll
Yeah.
have to ask him if he watches. All right, everybody. We will be back and we will talk about Eternals. We are actually back and we are going to be talking about Eternals today. Now, this movie, this is a 2021 MCU Disney. This is number 3 of the year of the MCU, and
Phase 4, yeah.
Phase 4.
Yeah. Black Widow,
Continuing.
Shang-Chi, and yeah.
So the Eternals is a 2.5 hours?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
2.5 hour
2 hours,
movie.
40 minutes.
Directed by Chloe Zhao, the award-winning
Academy Award
winning director.
What else has she directed?
Nomadland.
Nomadland, which is the one she.
Was that a quiz?
It's a question.
It's a question.
Thought she was checking us.
And also written by Chloe Zhao, Patrick Burleigh, and Ryan Firpo.
Chloe, by the way, has been slated to do a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, I heard. Not so happy about that.
Questions anybody had about her work with Kevin Feige? I think that kind of answers because it's Kevin Feige's movie that she's directing. Crazy, right? All right.
Yeah.
So this is another giant cast movie. Wonderful, wonderful actors throughout. Basically, following the events of Endgame, unexpected tragedy forces the Eternals, ancient aliens who have been living on Earth in secret for thousands of years, out of the shadows to reunite against mankind's most ancient enemy, the Deviants. That's technically what happens. Don't think it's a great synopsis of the movie.
Terrible synopsis.
All right, so this movie, let's talk about this quick. We started seeing some middling reviews. This is not a negative review movie. This is middling reviewed movie, kind of along the lines of DC level middling reviews. But when it hit the box office, it decided to say, "Yep, I'm still a Marvel movie with a $71 million domestic opening and $90 million international opening. That puts it along the lines of or near the rest of the Marvel openings, which have all been over $70 million. And also, well, Venom 2 also opened that high. Everything else that opened, pretty much everything else that opened during the pandemic was around the $50 million or less. Marvel is reaping what they've sown, right? They created a huge audience that loves their movies and will come out to see their movies.
Pandemic be damned. Correct.
That's right. So, good or bad, it's just a note that really what this isn't that a response to how good or bad these movies
the movie
are.
is, yeah.
Right. People are responding to a product, a consistency in the product. They know what they're going to get. They think they know what they're going to get, what they expect to get with these movies, and they're willing to come out for that. All right.
True.
So that's enough money talk.
Money talk.
We will mention that Eternals was not getting great reviews. And so here's our review to decide whether or not we think they were crazy online or maybe accurate. So this is a big movie. This is a long movie with a lot of characters. All right, so full on spoilers. We're going all out right now.
Fire the red banner.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
You've heard of this. You've seen this, right? You know what that is.
It is unavoidable. It is your destiny.
Is this not why you are here?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Knock that shit off.
Okay, so because there is so much of this movie, I want to talk about this in pairs of characters. And the reason I'm doing this is I really felt when I was watching this movie that it wasn't like one big family get together. It felt like more like constant little pairs of characters getting scenes and building this narrative through them. Right? I never felt like this was a big happy family that all had their troubles with each other. Just that never hit me.
You know it is a big happy family?
And I think that might have been a problem for some people.
Mm.
Go ahead, Brooks.
Saga is a big happy family.
That's a terrible family. Get that trash out of here.
Right.
Go ahead, Chris.
All right, we're going to start with the main couple that drove the entire narrative here, that was supposed to drive the entire narrative, and their feelings for each other building to the crescendo at the end of the movie here. So, and that's Circe and Icarus. Circe being played by Gemma Chan. Probably one of the best overall characters, most fully fleshed out, interesting characters in this movie. And Icarus played by Richard Madsen, who I felt really left me flat 80% of the movie, and then 20% of the movie he was great.
These two main characters and archetypes, they're supposed to carry the movie, but I felt like they weren't really for me, watching this movie, they weren't the driving force that made me really connected with the story. Not those two.
Brooksy, what did you think of this main romance that throughout the ages, 7,000 years of romance?
Yeah, I definitely, I wouldn't say hated it, but I didn't feel it. You know what I mean? I didn't have this this deep emotional attachment to their legendary romance.
No, the chemistry didn't.
There was zero chemistry. Well, maybe not zero.
Marvel's first sex scene with the two of them. Like, I sat there with Eric and Keith. Keith was with me watching it. I'm like, oh, what is going on here? The gyration, then I love you. That happened on Marvel's. This happened on screen.
Yeah, but
they had sex in the desert for the first time.
But it was also friggin' boring. There was nothing.
It was huge for Marvel Disney to show that.
Yeah, but why? What did it do for the movie?
Nothing. They could have cut that out. Saved us.
Did you feel there was more chemistry afterwards? No, there wasn't.
No. Icarus just you guys keep saying he fell flat. I felt like it was on his side that there wasn't any chemistry. I thought Circe had all the chemistry to me. That's how you say her name, Circe?
Yeah, Circe.
So a note about the Eternals as characters is they were created, and as we find out in the movie,
spoiler.
They're basically advanced visions at this point. They're super advanced beings, synthetic beings who are meant not to evolve. So there's a weird question I have was, were they given emotions? Were they not given them? Because at first I felt
Ooh,
like
I'm about to
even
blow your mind when we get near the end of this.
okay. So the whole team, when they first landed on Earth and they were doing their thing, everybody felt like they were being kind of robotic for the most part, like just helping humanity along. But then, like Circe, Gemma Chan's character, was kind of like, "Oh, I kind of like these people. I'm gonna help them. I'm gonna make water out of wine and shit like that." And then, Sprite was doing, you know, and they were doing cool stuff, but like they still didn't feel like all of them were playing emotionally available human. They all felt very robotic.
That's
And
correct.
I'm trying to decide if that's super purposeful, because it's like Icarus didn't really expand past that for 80% of the movie for
That's
me.
correct. That's correct. No, like you hit a great point, Chris. I agree. I think again, I don't know Chloe Zhao's vision, but I felt like they wanted to show you these 10, because every single one of them went a different route. Like Hephaestus wanted to bring technology because he felt like this would his mission evolving the humans. This was the best way of doing it. And at some point in 1945 Hiroshima, he finally learned this may not have been the best way. Druig learned that much early on, and technically killing the Mexican capital in 5000 BC, realized, what are we doing here? Like, this is not beneficial to their evolution. Let's change this. Circe learned it, like, probably the earliest. Circe probably learned it much early on, like, passion, empathy. So every one of these characters, they're trying to show you, with the exception of maybe Gilgamesh, who was more with Athena, and I forgot the Akari, the deaf eternal
Makari.
Like with some of those characters never really evolved, but didn't diverge into something more sinister. Kingo, Mike, he went full in with the entertainment of humanity, the Bollywood. Like he's like, since I'm here, I might as well enjoy myself. So I think they're trying to show you how each of these characters, who so long lived sentient beings, accepted their missions, or maybe not accepted their missions, and decided to do what they wanted to do. That's what I think.
Yeah. So it's almost like the ones who decided to integrate with society evolved, and the ones who decided to isolate themselves and just live their lonely lives just stayed the same, right?
Yes.
Bingo.
So Icarus,
in Druig's case, he took a whole cult of people, and
So I guess the last thing about Icarus is that he was almost to the point of obsession with Circe, that he only cared about humans. There was a note she said, "Oh, you're learning their language," and he goes, "Well, you like them, so I have to." So it was like he's only care for them was because he wanted her. Like he didn't give a shit about any of them, which should have been probably a red flag to me at that point.
Well, hold on. Gilgamesh didn't care about them either. He just cared about caring for Athena.
Okay. Well, we'll get to the other characters. So, last thing, is there anything else you guys want to say about Circe? I thought she had the coolest power,
Cheat code.
But a quick power note is I didn't think they were as powerful as I expected them to be.
Right.
Like I didn't feel like there was like 10 Supermen landing on planet Earth.
No.
It was like
I agree with that.
They all had like varying levels. Some were really crappy powers. Some were Well,
Salma Hayek probably got the shittiest. Salma Hayek got the shittiest power because all she could do was heal others, but not herself, and talk to the Celestial.
She was like Heart.
Heart, thank you, from Captain Planet.
No, it was almost like the Celestials created a Justice League and sent them to Earth, right? And everybody's got their own power or whatever.
Right?
So.
Yeah.
No, more like Captain Planet, like Chris said.
Yeah, if they really want.
I agree with that.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I totally agree with that. I was sort of surprised by that. Like, and that was one of my questions I wanted to ask you guys. Was that, like something from the comics? I don't know. I was confused as to why their powers were.
There's huge liberties were taken from the comics.
All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about Gilgamesh and Athena. This was a surprise matchup to me that worked so well, and it probably was my the heart of the movie for me was those two when they got to their place in the future or in the present day. I thought those two were a great matchup and was probably most heartbroken at the moment when, spoilers, Gilgamesh gets killed. And
Mm-hmm.
I think, like, me and my wife sitting next to me, and we both went, no, 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 you don't you dare.
Yeah,
What
that
did
was
you
kind
guys
of
think
sad.
of Gilgamesh and Thena?
I was gonna say I totally agree that I felt like they had really great chemistry. And it was, all the things you said, it was like really surprising. When Gilgamesh died, I was like so heartbroken for Athena. I really felt that. And it felt like he was the one that could really control her. Um, but more than just like stopping her from fighting. It was more of like she was very dependent on him. But more of a like I don't know what I'm trying to say. Yeah, yeah, more of like a caretaker.
Like, if you've
Like
ever seen a teacher handle a kid who's having an episode,
Mental health issue. Yeah.
yeah, that
yes.
kind of caring in what he was doing when she was going through this. She had a very specific thing where she was remembering more than she should, and her brain was
Mad
basically
weary, as they called it
right.
in the movie. Yeah.
And yeah, he basically took all the blows and to
Yeah.
but it
Here's a problem I had because a lot of a lot of reviews that came as far as the negative reviews, she actually took a brunt of those negative reviews, saying she kind of mailed in her performance. It seemed pretty
oh man, no.
plastic. No, if you, dude, you can go right now after this podcast, you see all the different negative reviews, and she happens to be her and Icarus and a few others. And I'm like, no, I think she played her character well. She showed that she wasn't perfect, yet she was very physically strong and capable, but mentally she was having and they even explained to her what was happening to her character the other characters weren't yet feeling. And I believe that. I believe that the way she emoted her feelings, because Angelina could do that. She could show that she's not quite sure what's happening around her, but she's gonna play it tough. Like, her character to me is one of the few that I really was following every moment that they were on scene, because I felt like she had something to show us that was going to be, splendid or whatever. And
Yeah.
most of the audience didn't quite see it that way, which is kind of upset about that.
Mike?
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add. I agree with everything you guys said. For me, this was the best pair chemistry wise in the movie for me, and they both hit it out of the park for this role. So
I would say
Hey, Brooke, spoiler: her character's supposed to be Thanos' cousin in the comics.
Interesting.
Thena and Thanos. Yeah.
yeah, these two led my favorite scene in the movie, which is the dinner scene where when they first find out after Ajax's death and they meet everybody and they're in that little
Hut, whatever.
abode, yeah, whatever.
He
And
made his
everybody,
spit wine.
it was the one time where everybody felt natural, even even Icarus, like everybody felt comfortable with each other. Everybody was acting naturally. Whereas as soon as they got into like ship mode, everybody was like,
Yeah.
like
They definitely
superhero.
took that from Fast Saga.
Right.
Oh my god. They weren't drinking Coronas. They were drinking spit wine juice.
All right. The spit wine thing was funny. That was funny.
Yeah, it's better than that Corona. And who drinks a Corona like this? No one.
Everybody that drinks a Corona drinks it like that.
This?
Yeah.
Fuck. Whatever. Let's continue, Chris.
We
All
drink
right,
with a
all right.
straw.
All right. Let's talk about this. Is kind of an odd pair because they only had a few scenes together, but they're a good pair to talk about. Ajax and Fastos. So Ajax would be Selma Hayek, the basically mother or leader of the group. And Fastos is Brian Tyree Henry, who played the engineer, and also our first on-screen gay superhero kiss. Not a mention of
that's
possibly.
it. I'm done with the movies. Too woke.
Right.
I'm out of here.
So
Yep.
if you're okay
They
with this
didn't-
sex scene before and you're not okay with this kiss, then something's wrong with you.
So all right. So let's start with Ajax being our mother figure. Did you guys were you guys feeling the character? Like I wasn't getting much
I
out
would
of
like to.
character. wasn't getting much,
Mrs. Ramsaran, please.
which is terrible because I love Selma Hayek. I just watched Desperado the other day, which I know is old, but I
Damn.
loved
Whew.
every minute of it.
That's good
But
stuff.
like I wasn't feeling.
Not the bodyguard.
I think for the most part they were playing her again above everybody. She has this terrible secret, but you don't find out to the very end, which kind of dulls some of the character, because I think it would be really interesting if I'd known what she was dealing with when you start having those family conversations and she's talking with Druig and Druig's having his issues. I was like, oh, I'm getting something out of these two, but I didn't know what Salma Hayek was holding, and I think that would have made her character more interesting. What'd you guys think?
Her character really was of no value to the entire story, and I'm ready to move on to the next.
That's fine.
Wow.
I'm
right.
wrong.
Brooksy, what do you got?
Basically, what did Keith tell me? Paraphrasing Keith, she was basically a flashback for the entire movie.
She
That's what he
was.
said.
Yeah, she was like that USB storage. You plug it in to look up all your files, right?
Basically,
Yeah.
on this date, this is what we all said to everyone.
When she died, the USB got transferred to Gemma Chan, right?
Perfect. USB-C.
That's right.
I feel like for me, I actually liked this character because to me, like you guys are joking that she's a flashback, but then I kind of understood a little bit more about the storyline
Mm-hmm.
for me.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a necessary role, but I
Yeah.
like I said, if you had given me the idea that she had this terrible secret that she couldn't pass along to, or hurt her to not tell her children or her brothers, however they wanted to play it, family, whatever, then I would have felt more for her as a character. But up until that point, it just felt like she was this, hey, I'm just going to tell you guys what to do, and yeah, I can heal you. I'm really no use
Terrible
in this fight.
power.
I'm really no
Terrible.
use in this fight. I'm no use in this fight.
I'm the conduit between you guys and the all-seeing space god, and I can
the
heal,
conduit.
but not myself.
She's the Mork from Mork in this story.
All right. So then, what did you?
Hang on, real quick. I really like Fastos though in this movie.
Yeah, that's
Wait,
what I was
we're getting to that. We're getting to that.
Yeah,
that's where I was going. So go ahead. Mike.
Oh, okay.
Fastos.
Yeah, so Fastos and the actor who played him did a great job.
Paperboy.
I love the whole family dynamic where he said, you know what, he had to struggle between going back to the fight and saying, no, I have a family. I gotta, I need to look out for them. So
great piece of acting by his husband, by the guy who played
right, and his husband stepping up and saying,
and his adopted son.
Fight, there's not going to be any. We won't be here for you to protect. Yeah. So
I really felt like out of all the Eternals, yeah, you're gonna say Cersei, who felt the most for humankind, but Fastos' character in the Hiroshima scene when he stood there, because they showed you his little, let's bring the locomotive engine. They're like, man, let's just start with the plow. Like you can see where he's going, and then he sees like evolution where ultimately it's gonna end, and like the way he was shaking his hands and he feels like he was so guilty. That was the first moment where I felt like, wow, one of these guys is really changing with his perception of humanity. Not Cersei, not anyone else. It was him that I was following from that moment on, until they went back to Icarus and Cersei and Ajax.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brooksy.
No, I actually agree with that. He felt the most like human because he was not that he was interacting, but he had an entire family where no one else, everybody else was still like kind of on the fringes of society, but he was fully integrated. And I guess that now that you said that, that kind of does show his like full evolution.
Yeah, I like the scene with the engine where they're like, "Yo, slow down. You're gonna." Well, this is the plow. Like his delivery on the plow sign was great.
I thought he was gonna show just the wheel. I was like, that's what I thought they were gonna do. Start with the wheel.
So he was so excited to bring his talent to the humans. You could feel it in the way his character was made, and I know some people, some other podcasts have noted that that feels a bit weird. The whole Hiroshima thing, bringing it up, but it's not his fault. It still is the human's fault for using the technology in that fashion because that's not what he was making it for. But
Correct.
but he feels responsible because he allowed his knowledge to be used in such a manner. Next, this is a surprise one. I really like this one. This is Kingo and Sprite. So surprisingly, Kingo, played by Kamal Nanjiani, and I think I said that Nanjiani,
Close enough.
Nanjiani. Okay, and Sprite played by Leah McHugh. Um, they had actually like 3 or 4 scenes together, and it was basically based around Sprite's. Sprite has a oversized place in this story at the end, even though it doesn't really, you get told about it, but you don't see Sprite building to this point. But Sprite has a crush on Icarus, but she doesn't grow up because they don't change. Eternals don't evolve that way. They don't change specifically. What do you guys think of Sprite's?
This is where I could start agreeing with some of the critics. Her character
Yeah, I
was
didn't like her
flawed,
character at all.
and it
Yeah,
was.
same.
I'm sorry,
I also feel like they forgave her too early. Like,
way too early. She
oh,
just
it's
stabbed
okay.
Cersei. 10 minutes,
Yeah.
Cersei, not freaking Game of Thrones. Cersei. They just
Mhm.
stabbed her. 10 minutes later, she was like, "Oh, I still got some
Yeah,
more
It's
juice.
okay.
Want to be
Yeah,
human?"
Cersei doesn't
exactly.
care. Cersei is that person though. Like Cersei just
I
loves
felt like she should
people.
have died.
She should have
Sprite should
died.
have
I
died.
agree with Brooks.
Dude, she got smacked in the head so hard. I was like, oh my
That
god.
was funny. My entire theater laughed when that happened with Druid, which I can't wait till we get to. Enough time
All
with
right,
Sprite.
we'll get there. I like
Yeah,
Sprite, but I think they needed to explore that whole issue more before it came to be such a big important role at the end, right? To me.
I did feel bad for Sprite being not being able to age, and I understood that, that want for, she wanted to look like they do, right? So,
Hmm.
eh. But as
Yeah,
far
that
as let me
So she
just say
shouldn't go
on
around
Kumail, I
stabbing
did.
people then.
What's that?
I said she shouldn't go around stabbing people.
No, no, of course not. Kumail's character was great in this one.
Up
He did a
until
good
the
job.
end. Up until the end.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed his assistant, always with the cameras and stuff.
Yes,
yes,
I did like his
Haroon.
assistant.
Karen.
I did. Like, he
Haroon.
was the best non-eternal character in the movie.
Yeah,
Harish
I
Patel.
agree.
Was the actor.
but even at the end, he was like motivating them because he was like praying with
Yes.
them and stuff like that.
He said all the right things. I like
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
I
He
did.
felt like the remember in the first Avengers where Coulson dies and they try to
Coulson, yes.
use that Coulson. This
Yeah.
was a
Right.
Coulson moment. Like he was like, I'm human and I'm rooting for you guys. When he
Yeah,
was like,
honestly, Mike, I thought his character was much better than Kingo himself. Like, I felt like maybe they did it on purpose. I don't know. He was shallow. Kingo's character was shallow to the
Supposed
point
to
where
be shallow.
he didn't want to take any position at the end.
Right.
He didn't want
No,
to fight.
you
He
know
didn't
what?
want to side with
Yeah,
Icarus, but he didn't want to.
you're right
Mhm.
because he had found fame and fortune and he didn't want to give that up. I
But
love the scene
his
where,
His Alfred to Batman was telling him, you gotta.
yeah, exactly, kicking his ass. And I love the scene where he's standing in front of all the posters and he's like, "Those are
that's my
him," and
great
it's like
My
great
great
granddad,
grandfather. My
granddad.
grandfather. Yeah, that was the. I mean, he had funny moments. I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
ultimately,
he
the
brought the
entire
humor. Yeah,
movie, he wasn't necessary. He really wasn't.
yeah.
I loved his character. I loved the life he brought to the movie. All right. Two that didn't get very much screen time, but I think are very popular characters from what I've seen online and had a surprising good chemistry and one that should have been a bigger character definitely and one that had the best fight scene. So that would be Druig and Makari. So
Yes.
Druig, I know you're around here anywhere. Barry Kogan, and Makari is Lauren Ridloff. Lauren Ridloff is a deaf actress, and she's the first deaf Superman.
Right now on The Walking Dead, or Fear the Walking Dead, I should say. Those two characters, to me, I really enjoyed them in the third act of the movie. Druid, as I mentioned earlier, he had a moment in the first act where he was like, listen, what are we doing? Like, these people are killing themselves. Like, are we trying to evolve them? And he wanted to take a different step. And then Ajax was like, no, we got to follow Arisham's views, whatever. He was the first one to really, like, step out of the mold of the Eternals and their mission. And then he was a deciding factor why they split 5000 BC. Makari's character, am I saying her name right?
Yeah.
Makari. Her character, I don't know, maybe it was because of the way the story and plot was written. She had very little up until the final act, where they showed her more as a thief who was collecting very important items that you'll see in a spoiler for another character in the post-credit scene. And then that fight scene was Makari and Druid, and Hephaestus a little bit.
And
against Icarus was the best I've seen since probably Endgame. Even before that. I should have seen it in 3D. I'm sure it was freaking better than that. They show her power like, holy shit, she's probably one of the better characters out of the Eternals here. Why didn't we see more of her?
And the one thing I'll note is they never did the slow-mo bit for the speedster. They let her go
No, Marvel knows
speed.
how to do speedsters as opposed to the counterparts over in Snyderverse.
Well, no, I mean, we've seen good slow-mo speedster stuff. It's everybody does, oh, they're going fast, I have to do it in slow motion. Like, this was...
No, it was dizzying fast, and you could see it from Icarus's point of view. And I'm like, this is pretty fucking cool. Like, holy shit. Kicking ass.
That's right.
You know, Druid, who I really liked, and I liked the fact that he was a cynic. He didn't really believe in the mission. He said he didn't believe in what they were doing. And his thick bro, by the way, he had the coolest fucking outfits throughout the entire movie. That leather jacket he had, and I was like, where is this being sold? It's like freaking Kenneth Cole. Where are selling this shit?
James, like, where's the picture on the screen? Just
where's the QR code?
Like,
the QR code.
This dude had the coolest style throughout the entire movie. Even when he was like in the middle of the South American jungle, and he came out and he was like with the dude. His character, man, that was very cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's my piece. Sorry,
Mike. Makari and Druid.
Yeah, so I was also I love the speedster. What's his name? The other guy? Sorry,
Druid.
Yeah. So I was on the fence with him because it was kind of more like.
He felt like sleepy.
I was with Ajax with the non-interference stuff, and then I could see his point of view too. With these people are just going to kill themselves if we don't do something, right? So, like I get the whole conflict there, and I thought that was good. So, his character. I like that his character had a lot of conflict in him. So
I like that. Yeah.
All right, Brooksy.
Oh shit, we didn't even talk about the deviants yet.
This is weird, but I'm gonna agree with Mike again. I just like that his character had the kind of vocal conflict. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the first scene where I was like, oh, we're gonna get some real conflict in this movie. Like when he's like, what the hell is going on? And talk about an OP character. Like he just thought about it, and like the entire city was like, okay, whatever he say. So he had a pretty wild high power.
Yeah. He was the original plan to put down the Celestial, if you remember.
Right.
Before Icarus screwed that up.
Right. But I'll say I wish, like, that's a storyline I think a thread they didn't pull that really should have been maybe the heart of the movie is his differences, and you could see it because Icarus was ready to stand up, and Druid was like, you're gonna have to kill me if you want to stop me. But like they didn't pull that thread enough. He disappeared once he walked out with the entire town, and then like disappeared into a jungle, and they forgot about him for thousands of years. Like him having being the first one to vocalize that I don't want to do this. I don't think this is the right thing to do.
Yep.
Was interesting, but also if you want to make, you could have made a cool free will statement of Druig. Are you doing the same thing as the Celestials? Because these people don't have free will. They're doing exactly what you tell them to do. Like there's an
True.
interesting dichotomy in what Druig was doing.
That they did not explore at all.
No, it
Nope.
was
Yeah.
just completely ignored. All right. So the cast, we like them overall. Let's go with the Deviants.
The antagonists of the movie.
Were
Deviants.
they
They're
the antagonists?
Sold us on the trailer. They were antagonists. In fact, there was one deviant who looked like he was evolving into something different.
Well,
yet.
All right. So quick history from the movie is that we find out that the Celestials, the giant robot god beings, first created the Deviants in order to remove the lower intelligent life, the non-intelligent life from the planets, so that intelligent life could spring up, which eventually then got out of control. So they had to create the Eternals to take out the Deviants so that intelligent life could actually spring.
And do you know why why they wanted intelligent life to spring?
And then the intelligent life springs big enough, then they can birth an Eternal from the center of their planet, killing all the intelligent
Thereby
life.
revealing the Celestials were the true main antagonists. But let's go back to the Deviants, yeah.
Right. So the
Deviants. Go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, so they're kind of a red herring, but they're still in here. And what are they doing here for us?
Terrible CGI, terrible villains.
They were okay. They were kind of cool.
There was there was one deviant that you could see was evolving, and I thought he was going to evolve. At one point during the third act, during the big fight scene, it looks like he was taking sides against Icarus.
That's what I thought too.
So it looked like they were going to team up, but then the Eternals all turn on him first.
Yeah, I like that he was evolving, and then that's where I was like, okay, he's now on their side. They're going to team up.
Yes.
And they're going to stop the celestial birth and whatever. But no.
So it's not only a red herring, it's just a stupid dingleberry of a freaking villain.
You know, there was reasons for it to be there, but it just felt like you didn't even need the advancing one. You could have just had them be demon dogs who were trapped in the ice, and they had evolved a little bit.
Climate change, by the way. Message. Climate change.
Right.
There's a lot of
climate change is real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess I had a couple of questions. Are the Deviants from? Probably the answer is yes. From the comics.
Yes, they are from the comics.
Yeah, but
also created by the Celestials.
But they
don't look like what you saw in the movie.
No, they're like ugly humanoid, as opposed to pretty humanoid, which is the Eternals.
Another spoiler fact for you, Brooks. So you know Thanos. You know him, the big bad of Marvel. He's actually Eternal with the deviant gene. So he's a mutant of the Eternals that has a deviant gene that was unaccounted for by the Celestials. So he looks more like a deviant, like the way they do look like in comics, but he's actually an Eternal.
It seemed like I know they were trying to make it a thing, but I think because they didn't turn it into something at the end where they fought together or they evolved in some interesting manner. It was just more things to fight, and I don't mind things to fight. I don't mind, the
Ultra some of our geek fans who don't like this movie say another third act with things to fight, CGI.
Yeah,
Ooh-ha.
That's a little bit actually how I felt. Like I wasn't like, oh, I don't know.
You hear that, Chris?
That's why I kind of had questions about it. I just like.
All right.
I don't know.
So the other thing I'm going to ask you guys is this even more common than CGI third acts in Marvel movies and all superhero movies is the story time. Every movie now has a story time and it has a fun animation or whatever. Shang-Chi had the wall with the history of the secret city or whatever it was. So we got story mode this time when Circe is told by the main Celestial, whatever Big Red there, exactly where they're from.
Amersham, Big Red.
Amersham,
Come on.
Big Red. They're
From
from
the
the
comics,
world.
Brooks.
Yeah, they're from the World Forge, and they're just beings who were made for a purpose. They were made not to evolve, and their brains are kept in cold storage for some reason.
Not from the comics.
What did you guys think of story mode here in Eternal?
Terrible. It was terrible.
Was it too long? Was it necessary? Did it do anything?
Graphically, it looked great when they showed you the Celestial bursting out of the freaking. But narratively, it made no sense because it wasn't based on the comics. It's something brand new. But then it's like, so you're telling me you guys predate the Infinity Stones, but the Infinity Stones is like the beginning of the universe, and your purpose is to create life. It didn't solve anything. It just brought a bunch of new questions that Marvel's not ready to answer.
Brooks, what did you think of story time?
I felt like it made the movie too long. I was annoyed by it.
Thank you. Marvel, hear that? Too long.
Do we think something like a Disney Plus show for these things being like, hey, you want to know the history of the Eternals? Go watch this 1 hour special.
You could do like What If? Do animated. Yes. It'll be cheap. You can get the same thing accomplished.
It was beautiful though, gosh. The whole
Yeah, but you guys
It was beautiful.
You can't say that in Dune you were mad because you had to do homework to figure out what was happening in the movie, and then say the Eternals should remove stuff that you should go do homework on to go watch.
I didn't say that. I didn't say remove it. I said no. Hold on. This is what I said. Unlike Dune, because Dune kept the story, which was still trash. The book was trash. The comics has a whole different version of this stuff. What the movie did was give us a new version, the MCU version to me, that made it more confusing than actually gave you a narrative. It didn't, because they already set up the history of you. Remember, Tenali the Collector, in the beginning of time, there was a sixth singular. And in fact, in the beginning of this movie, they tell you the Celestials predicted. So it's like, wait, what? Now, what is happening now?
So that's not a matter of them having a story. It's them screwing up the story.
No, my problem, Mike, was not that I think story mode was bad. And I'll take the Dune idea, and I'm going to link those two because I have the same problem with both of these movies.
Mm-hmm.
The things that I want to know more about weren't in the movie. The Bene Gesserit, the bad guys, those were underdeveloped characters who were very important to the story. And here we have the same thing. We have Gilgamesh's whole thing. We have the characters where they were for all these years. And Icarus knowing the thing or not knowing the thing, and things that felt underdeveloped that could have made the story more interesting. Whereas Dune, though, overall, though, is a simpler story. This, because there are so many characters they're trying to follow, it's just so much. And and by using that time to tell me the story of the history of the Celestials and the history of the World Forge, kind of got in the way of the history of just how does Icarus and Circe get along with Gilgamesh, and how do they, what's Makari doing? Like, that's the interesting thing.
Chris is right.
That's what connects me to this story.
Visually, it looked great. I'm not gonna lie to you. Visually, if I was like somebody that wasn't following all of these goddamn movies, I'd be like, holy shit, some awesome shit.
I guess the last thing is to have James explain the post-credit. Oh, no, actually, before we do that, James, I forgot. What did you guys think of the finale of Icarus about to kill Circe, but not killing Circe, and Circe using the power of Captain Planet power to stop the Celestial from birthing?
Captain Planet.
But it did actually make it to the surface, which means it destroyed a large portion of crust and up through the center of the Earth. So it really should have done a lot of damage. But what did you guys think of that finale? Cool looking, interesting. I
Definitely
thought it was
cool looking. I thought the whole birth of the Celestial stuff was amazing,
especially in IMAX. It looked great.
Yeah,
look at 3D, Brooks. It looked like Eric said. It looked like a little baby was sticking out. Please don't kill me! And like his eyes. He was mocking the whole thing. He's like, Dad, don't kill me! And he got murked.
This was the best acting from Icarus.
Yes.
Where he had to make the decision, and he's about to kill her, and then he's not going to, and then he's going to.
Yeah, that was kind of cute.
The single tear fall.
Single tear.
Single tear's enough.
It's a calling card for great actors now in Hollywood. You got to pull that shit out your...
And then fucking flies into the sun. Like, what the hell was that?
Like the story of Icarus, which keeps reminding me. Keep reminding me.
That was awesome. I thought that was cool.
I guess he didn't fly too close to the sun that time.
Brooksy, did you like that ending at all?
No, I wanted him to die.
Wow.
So you did like it?
So you did like it because he did die. He's not Superman.
Icarus?
Yeah.
Icarus, yeah.
He's not Superman.
He killed himself. He flew into the sun.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
She fell asleep at that part.
No, I was definitely awake. I just didn't get that he was killing himself.
Yeah.
Oh,
he couldn't live with his mission anymore.
If you think of him as Superman, then you're like, oh, he's just going to power up. But he's not Superman. He goes and...
That's true. DC version would have powered up.
Right.
Oh. Huh. That's why it changed the movie for me.
He killed himself.
All right, now James can explain to us the amazing.
All right, real quick. It's getting late. We had two post-credit scenes. One the mid-credit scene, which is probably the biggest one that was already spoiled. It leaked. So Thena, Angelina Jolie, Makari, the actress, the deaf actress from Walking Dead, and Druig were on the big Devo, whatever the ship was called, the original ship that they're out in space. They were looking for the other Eternals who got captured by the Celestial. They felt the presence, and then comes this CGI troll-looking character called Pip the Troll, who was known to be a drinker, adulterer, bacchanal-style dude, jester. I knew automatically that's who that character was going to be. But I was also spoiled knowing that who he was introducing was a character played by Harry Styles from One Direction. And Serena got spoiled beforehand. She texted me. She goes, "Is this true?" I was like, "Yes, the movie comes out in 2 weeks. Wait for it." So we saw that scene. And Harry Styles plays Eros. Again, remember how these Eternals were being named after the Greek gods, Eros being the god of love, son of Aphrodite. His character is the brother of Thanos, who we just finished watching the Infinity Saga. Again, Thanos is a deviant gene Eternal. This guy is a full regular Eternal. So now he reveals that he has the same little sphere that connects him to the Celestial as far as communication. Now, if you remember, Thanos was in Titan. Titan was a whole other planet that had people from Titan that were considered to be Eternals. What Marvel hasn't revealed yet is whether the entire planet was Eternals or was it just their own race of people and only Thanos and Eros and his father were their version of Eternals that's supposed to save that planet. So which goes back to what the fuck? Now you guys are tying what we just watched the Infinity Saga with the Celestials mission. Marvel, what are you doing?
I want to see Marvel's whiteboard. I really want to see that giant whiteboard that's trying to put all this together. I want to be in that room with just the brain trust trying to figure this shit out.
And understand, Adam Warlock is supposed to make his debut in Guardians of Galaxy 3. And so Adam Warlock and Pip have been connected in the Marvel comics since like the 70s. So at some point, if there's either there's an Eternals 2 or whatever it is, these characters will be back in the MCU, and it's probably going to be through Guardians of Galaxy 3.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now the second one.
This was the tough one. All right. So Kit Harington, who's Jon Snow from Game of Thrones, who played the boyfriend of Cersei, who his character was like the human guy that you kind of followed along, who was confused, but somehow knew something was wrong between Sprite and Cersei. His character that he's playing is Dane Whitman, who, in the original Marvel comics from the 40s, 50s, and 60s, he was the long lived ancestor of basically King Arthur. His whole family lineage goes out from King Arthur, and he becomes a Black Knight, and he inherits this weapon. It's not the Excalibur. It's called the Ebony Blade. Ebony Blade,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
So the Ebony Blade is like, those of you who play D&D, it's like the sword where you kill somebody, it's -10 against your soul. You become darker, but you're able to kill the person. So it's been passed on from his family, and they're supposed to inherit it. And the Black Knight, throughout the history of Marvel Comics, was either a hero who was in the Avengers, or he was an anti-hero who fought for himself. The latest version of the Black Knight in the late 80s was, he was a teammate with Blade. Brooks, you know who Blade is? Remember Wesley Snipes' Blade?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
His character originated in Marvel as well before the movies came. So at post credit scene when he's looking at what he inherited, because he's trying to tell Cersei, I got a secret too. And he's about to tell him, and then freaking the Celestial grabbed him, which was a pretty cool scene, by the way, when the Celestial grabbed him.
Cool.
He got finned like in Star Wars.
Fuck, friend zone forever. No poutine for you.
Oh, damn.
So off camera, he heard somebody tell him, "Are you ready for this, Mr. Whitman?" And it has been already announced and confirmed by the director Chloe Zhao, that character is no other than Mahershala Ali. You know him, the actor, who will be playing Blade. So now Blade is officially in the MCU with Mahershala Ali as the actor playing Blade. It's been confirmed.
That sword.
Oh, so that was the voice? That was...
Yeah.
That's who that was.
Okay,
he got paid just to talk off screen.
Because my son was sure that was Kang. I was like, I don't think so.
No.
Oh, it sounds like him.
Wrong African American actor.
It was just a
So
voice.
that blade, by the way, is supposed to be the equivalent, the opposite equivalent to Excalibur, which we also did see in the movie.
Yeah, that was it.
Jolie had it in her hands for a few
seconds.
She did.
They had it. Yeah, Makari had stolen it, and it was in the ship.
Right.
Yeah, I believe it's what Merlin made before he made Excalibur, right? Everybody, thank you for joining us.
Hey, we didn't give grades.
Oh,
are we not grading this movie?
Yeah, we have to.
All right.
It's all right. We're at an hour 15 for our review. I gotta cut that down by 60% anyway. So let's do our grades.
Do your Thanos snap.
So just like the Eternals cut off the history lesson. All right, Mike, I'm gonna let you go first. What is your grade for Eternals 2021?
Solid B on this one for me.
Okay.
Impressive. Very impressive.
And Brooksy.
I'm gonna go B+ based off the strength of the cinematography, seeing it in 3D. But it lost points because it was just too long for me.
All right, James.
Do I give it a B- like Keith or A- like Eric?
By the way, Keith says B-. Everybody.
Yeah, Keith is B-. Eric TV Pineapples gave it an A-. I'm gonna give it a B+.
Nice.
And I'm gonna come out and I'm gonna go with B-. I think the story kind of missed some stuff for me that I wish they had followed along with more than what they did. But there was so much I loved, especially. But hey, all right. Well, thank you, Mike. I completely forgot. We are running a bit late, but we had a good discussion. I hope everybody learned a lot about the Eternals, and I hope if you have any issues with what we've said about it, please come to our social media and tell us about it, what you're thinking. Mike, where can they find us?
We are all over the place at Heroes Peak, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell in the corner to get notifications when we have new content. And let us know what you think in the comments. Leave a comment below.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. You have a wonderful week, and we'll see you later.
Good night.
Good night.